Clobberin time! Clobberin! It's Clobberin time! Clobberin!
Yeah. Yes. Welcome, my good friends. Welcome to Clobberin Times. Issue number. Excuse me for the coughing there. Sorry. I should have muted myself. Number 596 on YouTube. And, of course, number 1,296 overall. Monday night, Mark C. Comics Talk. And it's so good to see you all. I hope everyone had an excellent Father's Day weekend. Sorry about that. Having a bit of a technical issue here. Hang on. A little coughing. So, here we are, folks. I'll start off another week of Clobberin. And I'm glad to see you all. Thank you for the M's. Thank you for the M's. Great Mark C. Well, it is sad times for comics fans everywhere. It really is. We lost another one. Before we go into that a little bit, though, because you can all see why. Yeah, you can all see that we're here. Before we go into that, though, how about do some show notes and shout outs? What do you think? Not much going on with the show notes or shout outs, just the usual. Tomorrow night, as often this is the case, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll be hanging out with, I suppose, Tom and the gang on Midnight's Edge after dark, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Always enjoy that. There's no roundtable with Loki tonight on Wednesday night this week. I'm pretty sure. However, I will have my usual wild card Wednesday night, in which will be wild and cardy cards with wildness and all that stuff. And then of course there is the clubhouse. Clubby's clubhouse will be in session as always with my wonderful first stops, Commander R.M. Briggs and our great chief engineer Mark D with a C. Hope he had a great birthday weekend. He did. I think he did. Saw him last night. He was cool. Let's see here. We'll have our usual reviews of Tales of Tomorrow and, of course, Jerry Anderson's UFO. And we will finally get underway with our Star Trek comic review. I'll be hanging out with Nicholas and the gang at the Friday Night Comic Shop Talk. Not sure what we're doing yet on that one, but that's 8:30 Central Standard Time. And then, of course, Saturday Night Star Trek. 4 more episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine reviewed. And then ending the week, of course, as always, on the Geekery, if he's having it, he usually is. Mark D with a C's, great channel. And that was a lot of fun last night hanging with him. And then Um, let's see here. I had a great time earlier tonight with the extraordinary J-Man and the great Sean, as I always do, or at least 3 Mondays out of the week, and had a great one tonight, hanging out with them, reviewing Legion comics. We're reviewing Legion of Superheroes chronologically from their very first appearance in 1958. All the way we're doing all their Silver and Bronze Age appearances in chronological order, all their appearances, and that is a lot of fun. Next week we'll have another one for you, number 9 already. We'll have Adventure Comics 304, Adventure Comics 305, and Adventure Comics 306. And again, J-Man Buddy, I had a fantastic time doing that. I really, really enjoyed it, man. Thank you. Great stuff. So, there's the show notes. How about some shout outs? Of course, as always, we shout out our great wrenches, whether they happen to be here or not at the time. Of course, the great bronze wrencher himself, Eric K. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate you, bud. And, of course, the Vindicator Wrench of the North, the great Chris Persia. I understand you're not doing well, buddy. You have to go get some rest. I don't know if you're hearing me or not, but a big shout out to you. Thanks. And of course, as always, for the promoting you do and everything you do here. Love to you, bro. We really appreciate you. And thank you. I hope you feel better, man. What's up? Wrench of Iron D. Bud Martin. I believe I saw you out there. Hey, partner. What's up? Good to see you, man. I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope you were doing well tonight, sir. I saw him at J-Man stream. I don't know if he's around now, but the great Lord Thoth, always the god of wrenches himself, with his goddess Lady Thoth, and of course Avon lives, and long live the Legion, my friend. Got to hang out again soon. I hope so. And of course the aforementioned great J-Man, the Wrench Without Fear, fellow Legionnaire reviewer extraordinaire, and of course partner in crime on Earth B. Always love doing the Earth B and hanging talking Legion with you and Sean. Great stuff. Hungry boy, master of the Clobberin comic artist extraordinaire. Stephen Kal-El Super Wrench. What's up, buddy? Thank you, as always, for all you do, man, for being here. What a great friend of the channel. And, of course, the great Maddie's daddy, Thorin Vegas, Wheeler of Nichmelia, and the great Franti outside here. Always good to see you all here with us tonight. Let me back the chat up there and see who else is here with us. Pat S., what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Could not be reached for further comment. Hey-o, good to see you. Let's see here. Anyone else here that I did not shout? Wagner, what's up, brother? All right. Bush pan down. Hey there. Kay Burns. Hello there, Kay Burns. Welcome. Hey, Scott Knudsen. Welcome to you. Good to see you. Thank you all for being here with us tonight. Appreciate you. Appreciate you so much. All right. Fanti says, have an interesting idea for Wednesday night. You get 10 picks, any company of younger heroes who you like to have seen in the Legion. In the Legion, that's an interesting. I like that one, dude. Yeah, I like that because so they could take a little trip to the 30th century, not the 31st, because that wouldn't count, and team up with our lovely Legion. I'm for it. I'm all for it. In fact, Tin's a lot, though. But yeah, I'm so for it. I'll eat a piece of candy right now. Hey, Jay Picasso. You all probably think I was using that as an excuse to eat a piece of candy. But I wasn't. Oh, well, maybe a little. But I was going to eat the piece of candy even without Fanti's interesting suggestion. So technically, I didn't use it as an excuse. But we can go with it and say that I did. I can take it. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I talk about this a lot. We're losing the greats, man. Losing them all. I mean, to the point where the ones who built this art form, I don't want to use the term industry. It is an industry, yes. But I don't really want to approach it in those terms, if you know what I mean. I'm going to just talk as an art form. Comic books are an art form. Obviously, the industry aspect is part of it, just like Hollywood or whatever entertainment, artistic endeavor. I understand. I hear you, Hungy. I hear you, boy. Yeah. HB, I got you, buddy. So I just say an art form, which isn't, is pretty much an American art form. I mean, and that's absolutely true, Phantom Outsider. But even if it wasn't, he says the problem is the current so-called talent pool is less than Temple Deep. Yeah, and by the way, that being said, there are also plenty of people out there who are talented. I mean, I don't question that for a minute. The human race always puts talented people out there. And D. Bud Martin says, of course, Amazing Spider-Man 39 to 52 is his favorite run of comics ever. I don't blame you. It's wonderful. So, but that's neither here nor there. Let's just say it wasn't the case. If comics were thriving and great and doing well, it wouldn't affect the fact that time keeps on slipping into the future. So, and that takes people away from us. That's just the way it is. It takes family members and friends and all that stuff. So it's not like it's a big shock. But even if comics were in great shape and there actually was any kind of thriving industry to speak of, it doesn't take the place that we're losing all of the greats, the founders, the gods of the pantheon. Thank you, Scott Knudsen, with that very generous super chat. You were too kind. I'm honored. He says, I think pretty much every John Romita Sr. Spidey cover could hang in a museum. I agree. But he also had a real impact when he took over as art director in 1972. True. The posters, merch, and house ads all took a huge leap in quality. And I'll even go so far as to say is all that impact, not exactly on par with his Spidey impact, but close. Because if you look at his interior page output over his career, it's not huge by any stretch of the imagination. He did a lot of covers. Brian Hepburn, what's up, buddy? But even that, he did a lot of covers. And I'm going to take a look at some of that stuff in a minute. But it's what he did outside of the interiors of comics and even covers, which made his art almost the face of Marvel in the Bronze Age. No, not almost. It was, because Kirby was gone. I mean, to me, the business never who your favorite one is, or just the way that Jose Luis Garcia Lopez his work became the DC style book, which was literally used for the DC style book. At Marvel, it was Romita. But to get back, what I was saying at the beginning is that today, the state of the industry today doesn't really enter into it as much as time is taking these people away from us. And a lot of them, had very poor health because of what the industry did to them in the 70s and 80s. And so many of them passed at earlier ages, 70s, 80s, and the 90s. And so at least, I'm glad that Mr. Romita got to live a bit of a longer life. Till 93 is not bad. I mean, look, I'm not one of those that says, "Oh, 93, oh, that's not so bad." I mean, no, you still don't want to go, no matter how old you are. But I guess, but it was still a nice long life. Where some of these guys, Jack only got 74. Hungry Boy says, in 73 and 78, I reckon Romita was the art style people thought of when they thought of Marvel. Yes, Clobby. Yes. Oh, yeah. Romita wasn't the face of Marvel covers. He was the guy who touched up the faces on Marvel covers. Yeah, he was the art department. Yeah, that's true. I think the only one who could compete with him would be John Buscema as author of How to Draw Marvel Comics the Marvel Way. Yeah. Oh yeah. But he was extraordinary and very humble man too. He never stopped being a humble man. He's told stories a lot of times how he did not want to take over for Ditko. And that's just big shoes to fill. He flat refused to take over for Kirby on FF. He did a couple of issues, but then it's passed it on to John Buscema. So, but he was always such a humble man and just an incredible guy. Who, again, I didn't know him, but from what people say, really enjoyed his work, which is always pretty good. But man, oh man, that Spider-Man run. Like I said, I did, of course, when you go back and find the shorter runs, like I love his Daredevil run. I wish he didn't want to leave. By the way, he did not want to leave Daredevil. He wanted to stay on. He wanted to keep doing Daredevil, but Spidey was the big kahuna. He was just more popular. I mean, personally, I do love Spidey a little bit more than Daredevil, but I love Daredevil right up in there in top. As I've said many times before, as I've done my top favorite characters list and what have you, Spidey is he's right up there. I mean, I got to think of my characters list of favorite characters. I have I got Spidey just a few notches ahead of Daredevil, so I love Daredevil. And I would like to have seen him stay on Daredevil. Yeah, retrospectively, obviously, in retrospect, to stay on Daredevil. What would that have been like if he'd stayed on Daredevil and someone else did Spidey? I don't know. I'm not sure comics history could handle it. Yeah, the Captain America Commie Smasher cover really. Yeah, he did work on Captain America Commie Smasher. Well, I did a show a couple years back chronicling the pre-Miller years of Daredevil, because I love the pre-Miller. I love Miller's, but I love that the pre-Miller Daredevil. I just love it. But John Romita, because his art is so, I guess, ubiquitous. I mean, it's a lot of people think he did like an extraordinarily, quote unquote, large body of work, when actually, and I've talked about this before. Let's see here, John. Sorry, buddy. I thought I had this thing pulled up. Damn it. These case sensitive searches. There we go. All right. So, where were I? All right, here we go. Damn it. StreamYard just giving me some annoyances today. All right, so Probably my fault. Now, what am I trying to kid? Righty. Well, you probably still can't see this. Let me. Bop, 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 bop. A little bit better. A little bit better. Okay. All right. John Romita, as far as stories that he's involved with, 465 story credits. That means either artist or writer, artist or penciler, what have you. Total pages for all stories. That's stories now. 4,691. That's how many stories he has either an artist, a penciler, or an inker credit on. Sometimes artist because he did all the art. Penciler obviously means he just did the pencils, and inker just means he did obviously not nothing you don't know. So hey, JT Kirk, what's up, bud? When you go to covers, 969 cover credits were found. I mean, I'm sure no list is 100% accurate or anything. Now, if you contrast that, it's not fair to contrast it to Kirby, but you know what I'm saying. If you contrast it to Kirby, oh, there you go. You have 1,555 story credits found. Total pages for all stories, 19,441. Look at covers. Over 2,000 covers. 211 as editor. So many of them writer artists, artist, pencil, writer artist. Rarely were there inkers. That puts like Kirby in the top 2 or 3 of all most prolific. And it's not even close. So contrast that 19,441 pages as to 4,000. It's not a lot and that's not an insult to, nowhere near an insult to John Romita. It simply shows that he made impact in other ways. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Oh. There you are. Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah, you know, yeah, D, but I think I'm gonna have to agree. I think Colin's Daredevil, of course, he did it so much longer. Yeah, I mean, I think it worked out well. You had Colin when his great run on Daredevil, and Romita with his great run on FF. I mean, Spidey. Scott says, I think if we were to judge impact on the industry per page, Steranko is one of the few who beats him, possibly the only one. Beats Romita, you mean? Romita did a fantastic Magneto plus Namor plus Magneto plus Namor plus Ben right after needing to follow Kirby. Yes, he did. I mean, I love Steranko. But he didn't have a gigantic body of work. What he did was extraordinary, of course. And he's one of the few that's still with us. God bless him. Yeah. A buddy of mine was just at I don't know if he's hearing me out there, but was just at a con in Charlotte. That's Heroes Con, where all the comics people go there. Oh, that's a fair statement, Scott. Yeah, as far as a small, considering how small the page count for Steranko is, there are very few who had that much impact considering it's small. Yeah, I see what you're saying now, and I couldn't argue with that. Yeah, I got you, bud. But he was just at Heroes Con in Charlotte where all the big pros go. And I remember he went a couple times in the 90s, and I wanted to go with him. He said, you ought to go with me, and whatever happened, I didn't get to go. And they had all the names there, man. All of them. And I got to meet most of the comics people that I wanted to meet, but there were a couple that I was not able to meet, unfortunately. Like I said, I got lucky, and I was able to meet John Romita Sr. once. And I got him to sign something. Now signatures are outrageous. So he went to this. He and another friend of mine went this weekend. Another couple of friends. They work separately. One of them is a comic artist in the field now, and he's a friend of. But my one friend who went there, he said he got to hang out with a few people. Oh, you'll like this, Hungry Boy. He hung out with Joe Staten, my friend. My friend, he's been on the show with me once, way back. He's the one with the great Treasury and big comic collection, Treasury and Digest collection. He hung out with Joe Staten and his lovely wife, from what I understand. And Joe Staten drew something for him. And so, which is cool, very cool, and I didn't give him any shit about it whatsoever. Aren't you proud of me, Hungry Boy? Anyway, so he met Staten, hung out with him. He met Garcia Lopez. I'm really jealous that he got to meet Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, whom I have not been able to meet yet. I love him. I mean, I hope to get to meet him one day. Romita drew a wide variety of horror comics at Atlas. I very much would like to see one of those. You could probably find. I could help you find those that you could see online if you let me know. I'll see if I can help. I can steer you towards some of those probably. He did a lot of romance comics. I mean, tons of romance comics. Now, I don't really remember him doing much horror stuff, but maybe he did. I'm not saying he didn't. I just don't really remember seeing much of it myself. Your Muslim uncle, what's up, dude? He said, from God we came, back to God we go. Mr. Ramirez, oh, yes, thank you. God bless his soul and console your family and friends and fans. Yes. Thank you for that, your Muslim uncle. Yes, indeed. Man was extraordinary. Very nice man. Loved his work. Brilliant. And, a superheroic artist, to be sure. So, and we pay tribute to them. It's not really, I don't know. I think it's such low-hanging fruit to say Spidey. Now, again, he had the odd run here and there. Like we mentioned, this Daredevil run, which was brief. He would fill in for a few issues here and there on various comics. But let's leave except for Spidey now. And let's leave Daredevil out since he had a bit of even though it was a slight run. Except for Spidey and Daredevil. Remember, he only did that 2 issues of FF after Kirby left, so I guess we could say that's fair game. He didn't do any. There were no real long runs on characters. He did stuff from time to time. Who would you have wanted to see Romita do like something where anywhere like half as much or close to as much of a run on a character like he did Spidey? Because remember, he didn't just draw Spidey. He wrote those comics. He created those stories. Did not come from Stan Lee. That was John Romita Jr. Just like Ditko did all the writing on his. And I'll argue with that with anybody. So aside from Spidey and Daredevil, what character would you like to see Romita take over and do? And if you want to put a writer with him like an Archie Goodwin back there, somebody like that, or even a Roy Thomas, that's fine. It could be an art set because but when his long ass run on Spider-Man was him doing all the heavy lifting in terms of the plotting and all that kind of stuff. Scott Knudsen says, I think his experience writing romance books helped propel Spidey to the next level. The sad sack routine was toned way down, and now we had the Pete Gwen MJ triangle. It clearly struck a chord. It did because, at that time, Spider-Man was very popular, but equally popular at that time in the mid to late 60s when Romita came along. Archie comics were huge as well. I know D-Bud's an Archie guy. I mean, I wasn't much of an Archie comics buyer, but they were huge. They were huge sellers in the 40s and 50s and even in the 60s. And really, you had a combination of the young superhero, and Spidey with all the problems and stuff. And it was kind of he had an Archie type of a cast. It wasn't a humor book like Archie, but it was it was a young romance type of a title. It was similar to the romance title. In other words, he incorporated, like you said, some of that romance stuff that he'd been writing. And almost like an Archie type of cast. It was definitely a running soap opera type thing that Romita did with his run of Spidey, and it was very popular. It is what most of things later were based on. I got to be honest, I love Ditko's run so much. But I'm just a little partial to Romita's run. Ditko did brilliant stuff. Without Ditko's foundation, you don't have Romita's at all. I'm gonna go there to how much Kirby contributed that he gets no appreciation for. But Ditko still pretty much did all the creating on that version of Spider-Man. Romita brought a lot to it. It was very different. It's funny. It was a departure from Ditko, and yet it became even bigger. It goes back to what I was saying last week. In the hard act to follow department, Romita didn't want to try to have to follow Ditko. He pretty much refused to follow Kirby. He did those 2 issues and he was out of there. He scooted out of there. Let John B. do it. And he had to let Roy Thomas and John Buscema do it. And it was okay. I mean, look, how do you follow Kirby on FF? You just don't. But you did anyway because life goes on. They chased him out of there, and he left and went to this thing at DC. And they were going to keep printing a Fantastic Four comic. Romita didn't want to do it. So, Fanny says, Stan's lucky Senior didn't stick a crown on a bowling pin and called it a day. Oh dear. So I don't know, man. He took Spidey and made it and kept the popularity up, and it went up after that. And when I first saw Spider-Man, he was the 60s cartoon. That's what and then, started seeing him on the shelves, the racks, the spinner racks. By the time I got to Spidey, it was after Romita's return run on that. So it was around the Ross Andrew, the early days of Ross Andrew's run, which I love, by the way. But it was also eventually they started coming out with Marvel Tales, reprinting. I think by the time I saw Marvel Tales, it was reprinting Romita. Hey, Andy Masterson, what's up, buddy? Scott Dutson says Ditko deserves to be a legend just for the rogues he created in the first 20 issues of Spidey. They still rank up among his most popular foes, but Romita did take that next step and shake things up. True. Ditko created all of Spidey's greatest villains except for like 1 or 2, like Kingpin. Not just Spidey's villains, not even just the greatest Spidey's villains. Some of the greatest villains of all comics ever, Ditko created for that run. And then could not be reached for comment. I had that Mego Spidey figure. Yeah, so look, hey, Retro Blasting, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, my friend, the great Retro Blasting. Michael, I hope you're doing well, Bo. Bro, good to see you. Just talking a little bit more about Mr. Romita here. So, and that Spider-Man cartoon the 60s when they introduced me, at that point, Ditko had been doing, Romita had been on the book a little bit. And when you watch that cartoon, I know Gray Morrow and Ralph Bakshi, a lot of other people worked on that cartoon. But a lot of it did seem based on Romita visuals in a sense. Oh yeah, I love my Mego. I think that Spider-Man Mego may be the one I bought the most. I don't know. I bought Superman and Batman a lot too, because I used to get them and we'd tear them up or they'd break and we'd get another one later. For a time there in the 70s, there was an abundance of certain Megos at the K&B and stuff. And if you wore one out, you could get it. You usually con your mom into getting you another one. Or when you could, actually, in my case, my grandmother, my mom wouldn't. So, but yeah, I guess here I'm thinking about it because, like I said, Romita did sporadically other issues and other work, of course. But if I had this to, I would have loved to see him on Avengers. Oh yeah, the Shazam. I had the Shazam Mego a few times as well. Oh, hey, Retro Blasting, Michael. Thank you for saying that, my friend. You're too kind, buddy. And everybody, it goes without saying that everyone here, if you haven't been to the Retro Blasting page and subscribed, there's a link in my description below if anyone wants to put the description. Oh, cool. There's please, if anyone can put the Retro Blasting in there. Of course, Michael, you can do that yourself if you want to, because you are a wrench. I'd appreciate that, though. Thank you, Michael. Where was I? Oh, hey, Master Son 42. Good to see you. I don't think we met before, but thank you for popping in. It says, man, we lost a juggernaut in the comic world with this one. One of the true legends of comics. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. Serious question, Romita. Has any post-Romita artist ever equaled him? Post-Romita. I don't know about equaled him. Or there's some, there's some that, interesting question. There's some that I might prefer a little bit, but not many. It'll be a short list. It'd be a short list. If there are some that, as far as ones that have followed him, if there are many, at least for me personally, Michael, I can't think of a lot. Well, just for example, I did my top 25 favorite comic book artists long ago with the great Mark C. And I have Romita at number 8. John Romita Sr. is my number 8 all-time favorite comic book artist. So it's just a matter of preference. That's pretty high. So for me, I guess only 7. And let me see if any of them came after him. A couple of them came after him. But this is just a favorite list, mind you. If we were doing it on a more professional, like weighing his impact and all those other things, that might be a little bit of a different story. But this is just a preference list, I suppose. I'll just tell you this. The people the 7 before him that I just I have them before him, but it doesn't mean I think they're greater. Well, I'll just give you the top 10, Mike. I'll give you my number 10 is Kurt Swan. My number 9, believe it or not, is John Byrne. My number 8 is John Romita Sr. And then my number 7 is Jim Steranko. My number 6 is Jim Aparo. My number 5 is Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. My number 4 is Neil Adams. My number 3 is George Perez. My number 2 is Gil Kane. And my number 1, of course, guess who number 1 is, everybody. I know you'll never guess it. So, of those people that Jose Luis Garcia Lopez did start after Romita. Now, I love him on an equal level. My number 8 and my number 4 are not that far. I mean, I love them. I just, this was a ranking list, so make of it what you will. Steranko did start after Senior also. Aparo started a little bit after him. Technically speaking, yes. So it's an interesting question, but for the most part, in my opinion, very few. Oh, post-Romita Spider-Man artist. That's different. Then no. No. Yeah, only Bernie by someone else. No, sir. In that case, it's a good Michael. No problem. No, sir. He's my favorite Spider-Man artist, in my opinion. I did like Keith Pollard on there. Andy Masterson. Andy Masterson. I really did like Keith Pollard on there on Spidey as well. So if I had to put it in order, my favorite Spidey run artist would be Romita Sr., Ditko, Gil Kane, then Ross Andrew, if I had to put him in any kind of order. So to me, he is the ultimate Spider-Man artist. Mark D with the C was a man. He was a big man. What's up, dude? Hey, Dave C., what's happening, brother? Good to see you there. Let's see here. So, I was looking for something. Where are you? My spider. Okay. Is that you? Well, damn. I was trying to find. Yeah, I got to go Romita as my number 1. And yeah, but Joe DeBecky, hello there. Yes, Ross Andrew, big nod to Ron Friends, in my opinion, during the late 80s. Hey, Joe, I'm good to meet you, Joe. Good to see you. I haven't seen you here before. I love Ron Friends as well. I mean, I kind of dumped. See, my thing about Friends is I kind of dumped the series at that point in the 80s. I'm old. And so I like him fine. I wasn't buying his book that much. But I'll tell you a funny story about that. When I was posting a year or two ago, whatever it was, on my Facebook group that I have for this show called Clobberin Times Baxter Building Basement. I was posting this. I did a list type thing of my favorite artist per or my definitive artist per character. Who do I think is the most definitive artist? Per the character, basically, And I posted one for Spidey, and it was obviously it was a Ditko and the Romita and your Gil Kane and your Ross Andrew, and I think I even put Keith Pollard on there. I can't remember now. And I posted it up. I was doing that for every character. And Ron Friends that I knew of was not even a member of the group. And yet Ron Friends came onto my group and said, hey, what about me? And a buddy of mine I think ran into Ron Friends at a con this weekend. And I was kidding, obviously being cool. I thought it was pretty cool. Ron Friends. And then I felt, I was embarrassed. I was like, oh no offense, Ron. At that point, I think I dumped the book. This was the 80s. I was dropping a lot of Marvel books then. But I like Ron Friends. I have every respect for him, of course. So, but it was weird. It was awkward. Yeah. So, but what you gonna do, you know? There you are. In fact, I got that. I can send that to myself and put it up there. That picture I did way back then. Yeah. All right. So, Romita will always be my favorite and definitive Spidey artist. But the thing about that is that's against some, if you think about it, some stiff competition, because I've talked about this before. Spidey, more than any character really that I think of, not more, maybe not everyone, but as far as a great run of artists, man, does it get much better than starting out with Ditko? Then you get years and years of Romita. Then you get a couple great years of Gil Kane. Then Romita comes back for a while, and then you get, Ross Andrew. We say what you want about Ross. He did great. I like Ross Andrew, but I'm saying he did a great job on Spidey. Great job on Spidey. And I love it. So I don't know. That's a pretty damn good run if you ask me. And let's see, I'll put that picture up here. This is the one I made way back when. Where are you? There we go. Yes, so yep. And these, by the way, this is not in order. I just put it out there just to put them in order of appearance of which artist came first. I didn't put that in any kind of particular order there. So, Adman, what's up, buddy? Rita can't be understated. He is the measuring point. I tend to agree, sir. Friends co-created Spider-Girl, the best thing Marvel did post 1989. He gets a vote from me just for that, says Scott Knudsen. Well, yeah, I don't blame you. My buddy Mark D likes Spider-Girl a lot also, so you've got something in common there. Hey there, Blunt, Philly Reviews. Muslim Uncle says, I know I'm late, but I just thought I would mention that Ruben Christopher Haynes is having trouble and could use a donation no matter how small. Well, okay, well, you've announced that. I got you there. Thank you for announcing that. I hope he's okay. I don't think I'm not sure I know the gentleman, but I'll look into that when I get done later, because I'm not sure I know the gentleman off the top of my head. I mean, we may have met. I don't know. Retrobot says, is Romita the creator of Mary Jane? I found that fascinating all these years. I would say he is. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. He is the creator of Mary Jane. Yes. So, yeah, I put Pollard on there. How about that, Andy Masterson? He said, yes, he created her. As we know, Ditko never showed her face. So I guess she got mentioned, but yeah, he really pretty much created her. Yeah. And, he's the one that did the big reveal. Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot. So there you go. She probably didn't sound like that. I'm guessing she didn't sound like that. Yeah. So, yeah. I think I'm going to go ahead and say that if I got to pick late 60s, early 70s Romita to do a run somewhere just fairly close to how long he did the run on Spidey, a character other than Spidey or Daredevil. I was thinking about Captain America, but no, that would be the obvious answer. He did a great Cap, of course. I think I guess I'm staying Marvel. I might go to DC in a minute too, but first at Marvel. Man, damn, it's tough to choose. Man, I can't really. Man, I'd give myself a tough one here. So basically, that Romita set the stage for the 80s hot redhead revolution in comics and cartoons at the time. Well, I think that's a fair statement. Sure. Sure. Yeah, I'll take it. There you go. Phantom Outsider, I'm thinking with you, Defenders. Well, I love Sal Buscema's Defenders, of course. But if I couldn't have Sal, or Sal, Sal didn't always do it. So I would have him. Sal's one for a while. Then we ended up with Don Perlin. Oh, I think. How about this? We have the Sal run, which was great, usually. But I kind of would rather. I would rather. I hate to say it, but I would put Romita first, and then when I let him do it for a couple of years, and when he leaves, Sal takes over in place of Don Perlin. Yeah. Man. How about if he did a Human Torch Human Torch series that actually lasted? Yeah. Oh no, I got it. Fanty, I got it. We're wrong. We're both wrong, man. Invaders. Holy shit. Why didn't I think about it before? I'm sorry, I get picked on for being mean to Frank Robbins. Imagine Romita doing every issue of the Invaders. I don't care if it was just that 40-something issue run or whatever. Scott, thank you for being here tonight, buddy. I appreciate you. That's it. I'm hooked on that one now. Invaders. John Romita, instead of look. Yeah, I love Sal on Cap too, Andy. And let's leave Sal where he is. Okay, instead of Frank Robbins, God bless him. Romita on Invaders. Maybe the greatest comic of the 70s, if that happens. Let's get Archie Goodwin doing the writing, or Roy could do it, I guess. Because I'm sorry, even as a kid, there was rarely anything as traumatizing as opening up a freaking Invaders comic with all those great characters, a Kirby cover most of the time, or at least a great Gil Kane cover. And we've got Frank Robbins and Frank Springer and Vinnie Coletta inking Frank Robbins. I mean, almost every issue, dude. And even as a kid, I'm like, again, obviously, I didn't know then what I know now about comic book history. I didn't know, as I always say this, because I'm trying to be fair, I didn't know these were old men busting their asses to make a living. All I knew was, ew, this sucks. Because I was a child. Glenzer. Glenzer's the Invaders omnibus. You know what? Frank Robbins aside, I would have that omnibus if I could get it cheap. But imagine if instead of Frank Robbins, it was John Romita. No bloody senior or junior, just because that was when he was just senior. He wasn't senior, he was just John Romita. With his job, he didn't have time to do a regular series. I understand that. But just imagine. It's easy if you try. Man, oh man. That's the one, folks. Because at least Defenders, a lot of the time, had Sal Buscema for a while, No bloody senior, junior, third, or fourth. Nice, JT. Nicely done, JT Kirk. I like it. No bloody senior, junior, the third or the fourth. Just bloody John Romita. Let him draw the damn comic, all right? Man, oh man. Yeah, look, inked by Giacoia, Farron. Yeah, absolutely. No Coletta, by the way. If we're messing with the cosmic cube right now and manipulating reality, I'm gonna start doing pretty soon a segment I got planned. Spoiler alert. It's called Clobby's Cosmic Cube. And it's going to be something that we do on Monday nights. And we're going to go back in time and pick our favorite creative teams for certain characters that never got a chance to do them. Manipulate reality and say, damn, what if these guys got to do that comic? What do you think of them apples, Charlie? What do you think of them apples, Charlie? I want you to make the extra point. So, yeah, I mean, look. John was just extraordinary. Andy Masterson says, I always felt like Byrne drawing Nightcrawler was channeling his Spider-Man urge. That makes sense. That makes it absolutely. Man, Byrne, always good with another inker. No bloody Coletta, Perlin, Heck, or Robbins. Yes. Spider-Man deserves great art. I think we all tend to forget how original the character was. From the costume to the powers to being a teenager, it was brilliant. It was indeed. Thank you, Maddie's daddy. Either Defenders or Invaders work for Defenders. Him doing his Hulk, Doctor Strange, Namor, Valkyrie, Ninox, Server. If we really change. Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be so cool. But that's a good point, Andy. Yeah. Nightcrawler. So, yeah, but just look how much. I mean, it's incredible. All those covers. That's a lot of covers, folks. Yeah. Now, the question is, what if Romita where did I put my there you are. What if Romita had worked at DC? I mean, he's done some DC work, but he did that before he went to Marvel. Before he went to Atlas. But what would be a good DC character for him to work on, or is it just too weird thinking I'm doing DC? It sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? I think of Romita drawing DC DC characters. I don't know. My goodness. Well, I'll tell you what. For those who don't know, if you're near, I do a thing called the Clobberin Times Mark C. I've named it after Mark C. Mark C. Comics Creator Hall of Fame. I've done 3 so far. Later this year, I'll do the 4th. Now, needless to say, John Romita Sr. is in there already. He's definitely up there in that pantheon of greats. And I think it's all the more remarkable when you look at what I was showing earlier about how he doesn't have a gigantic page count in terms of interiors. I mean, gigantic compared to the guys, just to the Kirbys and the Swans and people like that, But so he got there on that great Spider-Man run and then becoming the art director at Marvel. And just so influential. I mean, his work as Marvel's art directors right up there as influential as his Spidey run. And we won't see it. I mean, we won't see it. If you stop and think about it, hey, Claude Salling, hey there. If you stop and think about it for a second, I don't think there's anybody left in quite that, that league. now that he's gone. He might be the. If there's someone else that I'm not thinking of, I apologize. There's some great. Don't get me wrong. There's still some great artists. Jim Franco's still with us. Barry Windsor-Smith is still with us. I've heard he's had some problems lately. I hope he's okay. Garcia Lopez is still with us. Those are, Jim Steranko did some brilliant stuff. But as far as impact on an art form or an industry, it's not. It's considerable, but it's still a relatively small body of work. Barry Windsor-Smith, great stuff. Body work, not gigantic, bigger than the Steranko, but someone that, certainly did great stuff. He was a great. Frank Miller, in terms of impact, for better or worse, Frank Miller's still with us. That might be as big a name as Romita. Again, whether you like him or not. Alan Moore's still with us. That's as big a name. Right now I'm strictly talking about names, whether you like them or not. Some people who left extraordinary impact. Starlin is still with us, says Hungry Boy, and he definitely left some marks for sure. But after last year losing Neil Adams and George Perez, like in the span of 2 weeks, and we lost Tom Palmer last year and some others. This is probably the biggest one since he's right. Neil and Perez and him are the biggest in a long time to pass. Before that, it was like 2018 when it was Lee and Ditko. We're about 4 or 5 months apart. They passed. So as far as a passing is concerned, this is about as big as it gets. Fanty says, basically, Kurt Swan did Superman from 55 to 85. Just Before Crisis was basically followed by Byrne. But then he came back a few years later. He did a lot of other Superman after that, too. Imagine if Romita jumped to DC and did Superman and Swan went over to Action. And Swan went over to Action, still a Superman title. Yeah, I would be all for that. So this is about as big as it gets. It's up there with the Lees, the Ditkos, whatever you think of Denny O'Neil a couple of years ago. That's big. There's big, then there's like this gigantic. Joe, oh yeah, but Tom Palmer was terrific, absolutely, and he passed a few weeks after Neil and George, for Adams and Perez. But this is up there with the Ditkos, as far as a huge loss to the art form. It's up there, close to the Ditkos. It's up there. Yeah, I agree. Look, Hungry, but yeah, losing Romita is like losing Adams, and Maddie's daddy Joe Rubenstein was. I saw him at a con back in January. He's still running. He did Charlotte this weekend. Rubenstein's still running around. We lost Dave Cockrum too young. We lost Dave Stevens too young. We lost a lot of people way too young. But legends, I mean, just giants of a field. We're running out of them. This is gigantic. I don't know of anyone left right now that would be as big as this. I hope no one passes away, of course. But this right now, until he just passed, he was the biggest one living, I think, in terms of impact, name recognition. You know, what have you. So, like I said, right now it doesn't get much bigger than this loss for comics. The art form of comics, like I said, I'm refraining from saying industry. Fanti says, actually, with all those gone, wouldn't Romita Sr. be about the top guy that was currently left? Yeah. That's what I said. Legit. Absolutely. I'm with you. I agree, Fanti. You're right. Joe says, D.B. Simmons. Well, unfortunately, John's not with us anymore. I love him, but Sal is still with us now. I love Sal Buscema. I mean, he's one of the few from the bronze. Really started in the silver, but he mostly came of age in the Bronze Age. So to me he's a Bronze Age great for sure. And he's still with us. Mike Grell's still with us. Like I said, Barry Windsor Smith, Jim Steranko, Garcia Lopez. But the list dwindles. As far as a Silver Age giant and golden, because he kind of started in the Golden Age a little bit, did Romita. I can't think of anyone from the Golden Age is still with us. I know there's somebody I'm just drawing a blank on. I think. Yeah, Joe, I just think, like I say, I understand it is an industry, and that's great and all, but to me it's an art form, and an American art form at that, even though it's been used very, actually to the greatest degree than many other countries as well, but it started here, really. Oh, yeah, could not. Sal was very prolific. So when the greats are gone, they're gone, man. They're gone for good. But this guy did something. John Romita Sr. did something, and I ask for your forgiveness. Because a lot of geeks don't like sports analogies. But I'm going to invoke a sports analogy, and I apologize. Don't worry, we're not going to talk sports ball. That old expression about, again, I used this earlier, hard act to follow. Which is why, like I said, he was intimidated by going. He didn't want to leave Daredevil. Stan made him go do Spidey, and he refused to take over for Jack after just doing 2 issues after Jack left, and then he didn't want to stay on Fantastic Four. But hard act to follow, when you take over after someone who is a champion, who is great, and then you continue that, and maybe you even surpass it. Now, in football, I mean, if you come after one of the all-time greats and you succeed that all-time great and you at least win 1 championship or something like that, then you're considered, that's a hard act to follow, but you did it. Now, Montana wasn't passed up. Steve Young only got the 1 championship. Montana got 4. Nevertheless, some thinks Aaron Rodgers is, anyway. Again, I know I'm not supposed to go there with sports analogies. But, man, it's tough to follow the greats and be great. Well, he followed a legend. This is, 38 issues of Ditko had established Spider-Man as a very popular character. And I'm not trying to be blasphemous. I love Ditko. But I would argue that he surpassed him. That's not for everybody. Some people would totally disagree with that, and that's perfectly fine. To me, and I can't think of any other classic run that I could say that about. Nobody surpassed Kirby ever, and nobody ever will on FF or anything else. No one ever. I mean, there have been some good runs on Fantastic Four that I personally like. Some that I don't like much that others do, so it's fine, whichever ones you like the best. But it's Kirby's definitive in the story. Now, doesn't mean you can't like one better. You might well like someone else's FF run better than Kirby. I just don't think you'd have too many people agreeing with you, but that's okay. You can still like them better. That's all fine and good. Kirby's definitive. And how do you follow that? Well, Ditko, again, if the things that had happened between him, he and Stan, when he and Stan were hard for the last couple of years, Stan and Steve weren't even talking. And even Stan Lee has admitted, he said, look, I would just say, yeah, do whatever you want. We don't even talk. He would tell Ditko, do whatever you want since you're not going to listen to me anyway. And Ditko didn't listen to him. He did his own thing, but eventually he got so pissed off he left. He could have done that book for 5 more years. Probably. Why rock the boat? They probably thought they were going to be in trouble. They didn't have a superstar anymore because everyone loved Ditko and Kirby there. Every book Stan gave to somebody else, with the exception of something like Steve Ditko. When someone would take over other comics, Stan Lee, and they'll tell you this, Stan Lee would tell him, hey, do it like Jack, do it like that, do it like Jack. He never said do it like, only Ditko was allowed to do whatever he wanted. But Romita, he told Romita, do it like Jack. And Romita said, I will. Okay, sure. Sure. That doesn't mean he drew exactly like him or anything, but he approached it. He approached the creative process like Jack. And of course, we have a friend who just popped in there. What's up, dude?
Hey, I didn't want to interrupt you mid soliloquy. Very well said. Very well said. Hi to everyone in the chat. And
see you. Thanks for
hey,
popping in.
Clobberin times. Yeah. Just finishing up some work and been lurking and listening.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the invite. But yeah, Romita Senior, what a brilliant artist. And I probably don't remember the first time I read him, but I guess as a kid too, I've said that before, you almost didn't know who was the art. Sometimes you didn't pay attention who the artist was. A very young kid, I'm saying, you just knew that Spider-Man, he did Spider-Man. Then later you got an appreciation, like I kind of like that drawing. How come, who is that, and then you kind of follow who you like, and then you really appreciate it because of course Hungry Boy's there. Thank you, Hungry Boy. But yeah, without a good artist, you can have the best story in the world, but if you have ugly art, it's really going to be a clunker. So.
Mighty Orbots, what's up?
Hey, Mighty Orbots.
Yeah, Andy Masterson, I concur. He says, I think John Buscema's best work was on Conan, Silver Surfer, and Submariner. I'd agree with that, but I actually like his Thor work too. Except, I don't think even Coletta could run him.
Couldn't erase it, yeah.
I liked, Tom Palmer ranked him sometimes, but yeah. So, yeah, I'm with you there, though, Andy. Absolutely, isn't this? So yeah, he was a great one, and it's just never easy to lose these greats. I'm glad he got to live a good long life and stuff, and he was happy. And
and he got to see his son be very successful in the
son's very successful.
Yeah, he's a current penciler on Spider-Man. So
yeah.
I know a lot of people don't like his current style. I like Romita Jr.'s older style, where he's more like his dad. But that's a lot of people don't. His style, and you like it or don't like it, but the guy's he's a talent in his own right too. So which I'm sure as a dad, he must have been proud of seeing his son be so successful. Because how many years total did Romita? I mean, I had that big run on Spider-Man. Imagine taking over for Ditko too, the popularity. So he took over. Would you say issue 38 on
39
or 39 on Spider-Man? So, and then what?
Well, he left the book after a while. And Gil Kane took over. Then I think at some point he came back for a little while for a short run of issues. I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah.
There we go. I had him pulled up and then I lost it. There we go. There we go. So basically, he did. Whoa, we got a way down there. Man, he did a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. There we go. So Spider-Man, he did issue 39,
And that's the cover with Green Goblin dangling Spider-Man, which I have that action figure of that, which is great.
He did it through 96, I want to say. Hang on a second. He did it through 96, right? And then he
95.
left the book for a while, but he went back at 106. I thought he did 106.
Cover artist
he did
97. Yeah, and Kane. Yeah, so 70.
Well, he did a lot of covers, but I'm talking about stories.
Yeah, stories. Yeah, so 71. So think about it. So he did.
Huh?
Well, I'm just looking at my database too as well. So he came in on 39 with that brilliant. That's one of the all-time great Spider-Man covers too. Number 39. So from 66 to 71, he was the Spider-Man artist. And coming in. So
right,
it's brilliant stuff. Yeah.
If you look here, he did. So he did. Where am I? All right. Then he did. He went back at 106, I think.
Okay.
For a short time, around like 1971 or 2, whatever. And then he went back. He was on it in the book for a good while. Yeah, I mean, up until issue
124, right?
He did inker and sometimes penciler. So, but he did work on the book. And but at that point, he had different writers because he was busy. He was doing art department stuff, so it wasn't really exactly the same. But he went to like 130. I mean, he did a lot of work on it, but as far as he did a lot of issues where he just did penciling, some inking and stuff, it wasn't the same as his run where he was really just doing all the writing and everything.
Okay, yeah. What was his last book that he ended up working on? That goes through his whole.
This thing here.
Yeah, that's that Mike's Amazing World.
His last work was Oh, those are reprints. Hang on. He did a.
We did some droids.
He did a couple reprint things and stuff like that. A couple special things.
Spider-Man 400.
Yeah, it's difficult to track on this thing. Some of them are like he did.
Yeah, it could be reprints then, right?
Stuff, yeah. Yes. No, not reprints. Yeah, reprints too, but sometimes it's other stuff out there.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to track.
Or like sometimes they would have I remember they would have like a small, like if you had an anniversary issue, sometimes they'd have like a small story by particular artists, tucked away in there. Yeah. Let me just show this cover here. I love this cover here. This is first. So imagine breaking into your job and submitting this cover, right? I think you get hired, right? So that's his first.
He was hired way before that, but yeah.
No, I'm joking. But I mean, imagine starting somewhere. This is.
Oh yeah, I got you.
This is my first submission. Yep. Hey, John. Yep.
He didn't want to be there. He wanted to be doing Daredevil. That's a great cover.
Yeah.
He did. His Spider-Man covers of that era are arguably some of the greatest covers of all comics, man. I mean,
well, here I can flip through these covers and let me show. Let's see, show picture folder. Oh. Let's see if that pops up here. Yep. So I can start at number, let's see, 39. Here we go. We can just flip through some of these quickly. Yep. So there's 40. Rhino. I think those must be some of the reprints they did. Yep. Did he? So did he do majority of the covers too for the stories he was on?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, during this era, he did all of his own covers.
Yeah.
Admiral T, what's up, dude?
Hey, Admiral T. Yep.
Yeah, he did all of his own covers. Love that one.
This is one of the more famous covers in history. Yep.
Yep. Classic.
Another famous one. Yep.
Oh man, he just.
Yeah, these covers tell a great story.
Right
yeah, yeah.
K-Dog Broadcasting. Hey there.
Hey, K-Dog.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Spidey John joins Doc Ock.
Kazar.
Another bunker. Yeah. I remember that.
Spider
Jonah
Slayer.
and the Spider Slayer. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mary Jane. Yep.
It's a good point Steve makes. Maddie's daddy says that, like Ditko, his covers weren't cluttered or his covers weren't overworked or cluttered exactly. They were all pretty clean. Just brilliant movement. Yep. He was a great cartoonist. I mean, like a lot of these guys, he could make a cover come alive. I mean, no one could do it that better than Kirby, but Ditko and Romita were good at it too.
That's a great cover.
That's one of my favorite covers right now.
This one escaped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going up. Mysterio.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, and Steve's right. Yeah, the great point. Of course, Steve's an artist, so yeah, there's not a lot of background clutter there, but it's all
beautiful cover. That's a brilliant cover.
Telling a story. Yep, that's a famous issue. Yep. Crisis on
There's
Campus.
Famous. Crisis on Infinite Campus.
Yeah.
Campi. There you go. Kingpin. Oh, one of my favorite covers right there.
That's another great one. Yeah.
Nice. I hate Quicksilver.
Not to be confused with the Flash.
Not at all. Well, depending on who you talk to. Rocked by the Shocker, another one of my favorite covers. Nick needs to be here, so he
Nick
says,
would
Shocker!
Like that. Yeah. Shocker.
Man Mountain Marco. Remember him?
Yep.
He was trying.
Another great
another
cover.
Great one. Classic.
I actually own this issue, thankfully.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, the lizard lives.
Nice.
Torch makes an appearance. Yeah.
Prowler.
That's one thing we don't get in the MCU with Torch and Spidey being great friends, right? Yeah. I'm never gonna get that. Yeah. To prowl no more.
Nice.
The coloring on these covers is great too. It just you see these, it's from a different era, different time, and
right.
It brings you back to a happy place.
Right. The kangaroo wasn't going to be happening, no.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Electrode.
It's quite a body of work, though. Yeah, you were talking before about, when you have a list like the infamous Hungry Boys favorite list, try Tripwire. But that's a good point too. Is how many comics did the person work on?
Yes,
Black Widow. Yep.
He touched a lot of them. Oh, I love that cover. Unmasked at last.
Yep. It must. If you only read one mag this month, it must be this. Put down that TV guide and read this right now.
Greatness.
Yeah. Yeah, and just look at the perspective there. Just everything works. Yeah.
So amazing, Spidey. Amazing. Get it? Doc Ock lives. Oh man, Captain Stacy.
Yep.
Classic. Brutal classic. Spider-Man did it. It's all his fault.
The city is against them. Yep.
Yeah.
No crossovers necessary. No big events needed to tell a good story.
No. I always had the Marvel tales of a lot of these.
Marvel tales, yeah, yep.
Yeah. Of course.
When I was reading as a kid Marvel tales, I didn't know they were reprints, right?
Yeah, man. Well, it did say it does say on the opening page of Marvel Tales, originally presented in Amazing Spider-Man number so and so. Spidey and London.
But I thought they were new. I didn't as an 8-year-old.
That's a Gil Kane cover right there, by the way.
That's Gil Kane. Yeah.
That's Gil Kane. That's Romita. Also, Gil Kane cover. Gil Kane cover. This is when Gil Kane had started up. I love Gil Kane. Of course, this is John right here. Jazzy Johnny.
Yeah. Morbius.
Gil Kane. God, I love the Kane covers too. They're great.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Freak with 6 arms can't stop a vampire. Still haven't watched that Morbius movie. Have you?
No, never will. No. Now you're in the Kane territory here.
Oh, this is Kane, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love it, by the way. But...
Yeah. So so this is is this the Romita stories in the interior?
Oh no, Gil Kane was on the series, but
Gil Kane's on now. Yeah, so
he didn't do it for as long as everybody else, but he did it for a while there.
When does Romita come back onto the book?
I think he was already on some of these. He did already. You already seen some Romita covers. In some cases, he did some of these interiors.
Yeah.
I'd have to look for sure. Yeah. Andy says, the other day my wife was going to the store and asked my son if he needed anything. He replied in his best, J. Jonah Jameson, I need pictures of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a menace. I don't care. I want you to find pictures of Spider-Man. Parker, you're serious? There you go. Cool.
Nice, good impersonation.
I like that. Andy, that he told her that. I say I like Simmons' voice. His take on was perfect. He was the perfect J. Jonah Jameson. You're serious? Get out there and get pictures. But I always thought about the guy who did it in the cartoon, Parker. We're never going to let Spider-Man join in any reindeer games, because the guy who did the voice of J. Jonah Jameson on that did the voice on the Rankin and Bass.
Who's coach?
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He was the was he
the coach, the reindeer coach, the guy?
No, he was Donner. Yeah, he was Donner.
Donner, okay.
We're gonna let him play in any reindeer games. He was Parker.
Oh, Kangaroo bounces back.
Kangaroo bounces back. That's a Romita, and that's a Romita. Romita. Kane. Kane and Esposito, right? I think.
Yep. Punisher no more.
Oh, yeah. J.K. Simmons is a great casting. Yeah. What are all these weird ass old newer?
Well, these are
covers. I know
reprints. Yeah, reprints
variant dribble.
Variants. Yeah.
They should have facsimile that one.
Yeah.
Oh, the Spider Buggy issue.
I love Spider Buggy. Yeah.
Do you have any? Is there a thing on there that could take you to Romita covers of other than Spidey?
Yeah, I can do Romita covers. Yeah, I could search for that. Yep.
Like like some of his other ones that he did. Oh
yeah. Let me. Steve said his favorite cover was 151. Let me just show that one.
Of what? Spidey?
Of Spidey, yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. So
that's a great cover.
Yeah, that's another all-time classic. Yep.
Only one of us is leaving here alive.
So we can do a search here for cover artists, I think. Let's see, item fields.
He was the head
cover artist.
Oh. Yeah, I remember the Molten Man also there, Mighty Orbots. Well remembered.
Depends on how he's in the database. So I'll try. John Romita usually has most of the. Senior. You can also search John Romita Senior, but in the database, this database, yeah, you'll be able to tell. But sure. That gives you the most.
Keely Chow, roll tide. What's up, dude? So what you got?
Let me see what we got here. So let me just download.
I'll do any bigger versions. Trouble.
Oh, just update the database here. So it's
I didn't know. I got one other thing we'll report on later.
Sure,
when we're down here. Yeah, he did a lot.
Look, 18. I wish I had that comic. That'd be cool. I gotta add that to my wanted list. Yeah.
Did he do that cover? 18.
Yeah, 18. So.
He did that cover?
It says John Romita.
Yeah.
Unless it's Junior, but yeah.
No, it might be, but I don't think so.
He did Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, yeah. Kool-Aid. Oh, yeah.
All-Star Batman.
And then that's senior. I mean, that's Junior.
Junior. Yeah, they probably put it
Junior.
as Junior. Yeah.
Junior. That's the rain the dog at Anna. Now that's senior.
Yeah.
But it's a small picture, so you can't really.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, some of them are not scanned in.
Also senior.
You can actually go by. Oh, there's a good one.
That's a good senior.
Wow.
Definitely he didn't ink that one.
We can go by date too, which is interesting to go. So we've got 904 covers that this database has. Plus, he could have some as senior too as well. Let's see here. What? Let's see. That's but yeah, we saw that one. Yep, Medusa.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
So what do we got here?
He did a lot of Captain America. If you cross this with the name of the superhero, would it give all his covers in?
Might be able to do that, but this will go in order by date. Come on, computer, hurry up.
Hello, computer.
Hello, computer.
A keyboard, how quaint. Yeah, that's him, all right.
Yeah.
Well, he did way before that. He did some Cap covers.
Yeah, these are the ones that all don't have cover dates on them for some strange, or like omnibuses. They used as art for.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Omnibuses, yeah.
It's tougher to find that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but let me go to the first one that actually have a date on it. Let's see its first cover in the database. Let's see. Scroll. Here we go. So it was 1954, Captain America. Captain America 77. Let's see. Computer's trying to catch up. Oh, it's a small one. Darn, yep.
You have an idea?
Let's see. Let's see, 78. Oh, it's too bad these are small. Let's see, Western.
There you go.
Western Kid. There we go. There's a big one. What's that? Girls Love Stories.
Here we go. All righty. I got some covers.
Oh, here's Daredevil. What's his first other one? I'll let you.
What now?
Let me
number like 12 or something, maybe.
Yep, of course you're right.
Is it? That was wild guess.
Of course you're right. Yeah, you got it.
So wild guess. Okay.
We're 12.
Kazar. I found a bunch of. By the way, I found.
Okay, here. Yeah,
see some better if you want
to. Yeah, you go for it.
Pull it down for a sec. Let's try something here. Okay. Excuse me.
Oh, there you go. That's much better. Cover browser. Yeah.
What's
Mike's Amazing World as well.
No, well, those are tougher to see. This is a site called Cover Browser. In case you ever anyone wants to look at that. Some FF covers. Can anyone see that? Okay, you think? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's looking good. Yeah, no, it's doing good. Yep.
I mean, you could click on them.
What number is that? 154. Yep.
What the hell?
No, it's going. Yep.
Oh well, you can't click on them, I guess. All right, so some FF covers. Actually, again, I don't trust these people. Romita inked some of these. Like there's a King cover with King, but Romita inked it. Then you get stuff like this. I know he didn't do this cover. And then this Romita Senior. That's Junior. I put Senior in the search. Then this is a Steranko cover inked by Romita. Actually, by Senate. Sorry. So no, these guys don't. Cover browser.
Get your cover straight.
I know a Kirby cover when I see one, you dummies. And a Kane. They pulled up the search Romita.
Is that Kirby on 133?
Oh no, 95 it is though.
95 is Kirby. Oh yeah, that's Kirby, right? Yeah. What about 133? Well, yeah, that's.
So the search is Romita, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay. So apparently you can't trust them.
But you'll get some in there though. Yeah.
Oh, dumbasses. I mean,
dumbass. It says Art Jack Kirby there. I guess at least it says Art Jack Kirby.
I know, but I'm talking about the search though.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this freaking search. It's supposed to pull up certain, covers. Oh well, I mean, I like Cover Browser, okay, but I wanted to just.
Well, you could go through it and show. I mean, some of them might be wrong, but
weird. Okay, this will be better. I fixed it. I think. Let's try this.
What'd you do?
All right. Some Daredevil covers. Again, that looks more like Gil Kane, but that's Romita and Kane. Yeah, some of these are Romita. Some of them are Kane and Romita. There's a Jack Kirby cover.
Yeah, why is that in
Kirby,
there?
Kane. And I pulled it up with their own search. Now, this is Romita. Romita inks, anyway. Sometimes you can tell he just did the inks. But then they throw a Kirby cover in there.
Because did Romita ink it or
no? So
it's a big error.
He did do that cover right there at FF. Sure, dummies. All right.
I just keep going down. That's all right.
Nah, I mean they're cool, but I wanted to see some. I guess I got to Google it. Maybe Google will be better than them.
What are you looking for? Daredevil covers or
no, just Romita
in general.
Romita covers. I guess I better put senior. I wanted to look at some of his Captain America covers. But guess I should have saved a bunch of them, but I would have no place to put them, of course. Well, crap. Anyway. Hungry boy. Cover Bowser is assembling of tripwire. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
Oh, well, Cap crap. 101, that's a great cover.
Now, this is a Romita cover. I have this book. This is a little pocket-sized paperback reprint book right here. That's a great cover. It's just a cap, but I like it. Bob, 101. Where's 101? Did you say 101?
101, yep. I'm trying to see it now that I'm looking at my database, but
that's a Romita Cap Falcon drawing right there. Not a cover, but it's Romita. He did do some interiors on Captain America. Anyway, all right, well, since we have a little bit of time before we get out of here, folks, I want to report on something since this is the comic show. I may talk about this a little bit more on Wednesday night when I'll be able to dig into it a little bit more, but I'm really kind of annoyed about something out there that I don't do this much because you could alienate people, get into trouble, but I'm sorry. Disney can go screw itself once again. But even the main press is recording this, which is pretty cool. Stan Lee documentary slammed by Jack Kirby's son. Are we to assume Lee had a hand in creating every Marvel character? There's a as some are calling this, Disney Minus dropped a documentary about Stan Lee. That some are calling it an infomercial about Stan Lee. And Neil Kirby, Jack Kirby's son, was not too thrilled about it. And I don't know. I'm thinking about watching it to review it, but I don't know about my blood pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure you have your blood pressure meds on hand, because knowing you, and you're one of the best sources of this. I was thinking today, you should, I'd love to see you on a documentary, on a panel discussing all Kirby's.
I don't know if I can handle it. I appreciate that.
But in terms of your historical knowledge, it would be fantastic to have you, in one of these rebuttal videos talking about, because, Stan obviously deserves some credit, but, growing up as a kid reading comics, I didn't even really know who Jack Kirby was as much as I love the FF. You'd see art by Kirby, but it was always Stan everywhere. So, and if you want to read that tweet, but one of the most illuminating things, I think, and we were touched on it last night just before we left Sunday Night Geekery, was how Neil, his son, would see his dad in his office there, and that the desk, he said, basically creating the Marvel universe. And he's like, Jack worked at home. It wasn't like Stan was over, working in an office saying, hey, let's work on this idea. And then
he worked at home. You're right. Hey, Matthew.
And the challenge of the unknown. I mean, anyone with half a brain looks at that and says that's the Fantastic Four is a takeoff on the challenges of the unknown, and it's a Kirby creation.
Well, yeah. I mean, hey, Matthew, what's up? Well, yeah, and it's just bothers me. The point, I don't know if I can handle it, but this is what Neil Kirby said, folks. Not me, his son. Okay, his son. And I'm glad this is getting attention everywhere, at least. He said, statement from Neil Kirby, Jack Kirby's son, regarding Stan Lee documentary bio release 6/16/23 on Disney Minus. The 13th century Islamic poet, scholar Rumi said, the ego is a veil between humans and God. In the Disney Plus documentary bio of Stan Lee, the veil is lifted. Presented in the first person with Lee's voice providing a running narrative, it is Stan Lee's greatest tribute to himself. The literary expression of ego is the personal pronoun I. Any decent English or journalism teacher would admonish their students not to overuse it. So the challenge is extended to anyone who wishes to count the number of I's during the 86-minute running time of Stan Lee. Oops. Understand, as a documentary about Stan Lee, most of the narrative is in his voice, literally and figuratively. It's not any big secret that there has always been controversy over the parts that were played in the creation and success of Marvel's characters. Stan Lee had the fortunate circumstance to have access to the corporate megaphone and media, and he used these to create his own mythos as to the creation of the Marvel character pantheon. He made himself the voice of Marvel. So, for several decades, he was the only man standing and blessed with a long life. The last man standing, my father died in 1994. It should be noted, and is also generally accepted, that Stan Lee had a limited knowledge of history, mythology, or science. On the other hand, my father's knowledge of these subjects, to which I and many others can personally attest, was extensive. Einstein summed it up better. More the knowledge, lesser the ego. Lesser the knowledge, more the ego. Let's see here. Sorry, one. All right. Sorry. Where am I? Oh, got it. If you were to look at a list and timeline of Marvel's characters from 1960 through 1966, the period in which the vast majority of Marvel's major characters were created during Lee's tenure, you will see Lee's name as a co-creator on every character, with the exception of the Silver Surfer, solely created by my father. Are we to assume Lee had a hand in creating every Marvel character? Or do you assume that it was never the other co-creator that walked into Lee's office and said, Stan, I have a great idea for a character? According to Lee, it was always his idea. Lee spends a fair amount of time talking about how and why he created the Fantastic Four, with only one fleeting reference to my father. Indeed, most comics historians recognize that my father based the Fantastic Four on a 1957 comic he created for DC, Challengers of the Unknown, even naming Ben Grimm the Thing after his father, Benjamin, and Sue Storm after my older sister, Susan. Though the conflict between Lee and my father concerning creator credit gets glanced over with little mention, there is more attention paid to the strife between Lee and Steve Ditko, with Lee's voice proclaiming, "It was my idea, therefore I created the character." Ditko's rebuttal that his art and storyline is what brought life to Spider-Man. In 1501, the opera del Duomo commissioned a 26-year-old Michelangelo to sculpt a statue of David for the Cathedral of Florence. Their idea, their money. The statue is called Michelangelo's David. His genius, his vision, his creativity. I was fortunate. My father worked at home in his Long Island basement studio we refer to as the dungeon, usually 14 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Most of the artists, writers, inkers, etc. worked at home, not in the Marvel offices as depicted in the program. Through middle and high school, I was able to stand at my father's left shoulder, peer through a cloud of cigar smoke, and witness the Marvel universe being created. I am by no means a comics historian, but there are few, if any, that have personally seen or experienced what I have, and know the truth with firsthand knowledge. My father retired from comic books in the early 1980s and, of course, passed away in 1994. Lee had over 35 years of uncontested publicity, much naturally with the backing and blessing of Marvel, as he boosted the Marvel brand as a side effect of boosting himself. The decades of Lee's self-promotion culminated with his cameo appearances in over 35 Marvel films, starting with X-Men in 2000, thus cementing his status as the creator of all things Marvel to an otherwise unknowing movie audience of millions unfamiliar with the true history of Marvel Comics. My father's first screen credit didn't appear until the closing crawl at the end of the film adaptation of Iron Man in 2008, after Stan Lee, Don Heck, and Larry Lieber. The battle for creators' rights has been around since the first inscribed Babylonian tablet. It's way past time to at least get this one chapter of literary art history right. Enough said. Neil Kirby, Jack Kirby's son. Obviously, if you want to say he has a bias, I guess you could say Neil had a bias. But he was also standing right there. Is he making it up? Well, Jack, of course, said he did it. Stan, however, has had multiple stories over the years. So, believe what you will. I don't believe in Santa Claus and haven't for the longest time. But doesn't matter what I believe, but I will say this, I don't know. Should I watch this documentary? Is it going to upset me?
I think, I would never tell you to watch something, but, it might be interesting just to see the claims, as long as, like I said, your blood pressure's all right. But, in defense of most people, like they have, like you said, Stanley's the Santa Claus. And he's the, lovable grandpa type, and, his cameos are great. And he was a great showman in terms of that, and a great, vocal point person for Marvel, and he helped Marvel a lot of ways too. I'm sure in terms of publicity and keeping the company afloat. I always equated it something like Wozniak was the brilliant engineer, and Steve Jobs was obviously brilliant and creative in his own way. But Apple doesn't happen without Woz. But if you have Woz on his own, who was the hardware genius and the engineering genius, you kind of need each other. But when you talk about Apple today, Woz and Jobs get, of course Jobs is more famous, but gets a ton of credit, and Steve Jobs, as far as I know, never, of course that's a supreme ego there too. So it's comparable to me in some ways to Lee and Kirby, because how many characters did Lee create on his own? Are there any? What would the Fantastic Four have been like if it wasn't for Jack Kirby? I mean, you probably wouldn't have had a Marvel Comics, right? Because the FF save Marvel Comics. If you go, I think we did it on your show. We went and looked back at that Mike's Amazing World with what was out in Marvel Comics, each month, and there were some horror comics, monster comics, and Millie the Model type, and maybe a few westerns, but no, they didn't have any superhero comics, and Fantastic Four saved the company, and that's a pure Jack Kirby creation. So in some ways, I wish he had fought back a little bit more when he was alive, or was more vocal.
They just couldn't match a company like that.
Yeah, you're fighting City Hall, but finally, I guess when Justice Ginsburg was interested in taking up the copyright case, it was amazing that Marvel basically settled, and allegedly they got $30 million, which is a ton of money, but also a minuscule amount of money when you can consider how much that IP is worth today. So I'm hoping this gets more notice, and it'd be great if there was a Bill Finger type documentary done on Jack Kirby, so he gets more recognition. I mean, why aren't there 20 different Funko Pops, no insult to Kirby, of Kirby, in terms of, I'm just saying, in the popular lexicon, you've got Stan Lee Pops and Stan Lee statues and Stan Lee action figures. At the very least, Kirby should be considered his equal in the creation of Marvel, and I would say even he deserves even more credit, but unfortunately he doesn't get that today, which is it's a true shame, because you think of all those characters and the storytelling in that artwork, how brilliant it was, and as the son is saying, how much interaction was there with Stan Lee on those issues, and you've said in the original artwork you could see Kirby's notes, and he's got the dialogue in his notes, right? That he did a lot of the dialogue, and then Stan would just maybe change a few things and say it was boom, a story by Stan Lee, right? So
yeah,
it's disheartening in a lot of ways. So hopefully this will get some momentum in the media, and more people will pick up on it. That Jack Kirby deserves a ton of credit. And then you had mentioned to me before too, there was a famous interview with Stan where his lawyers weren't there, and he basically admitted that Ditko created Spider-Man. And it would be interesting to try to find that on the internet or dig that up. But he kind of said some things that oops, he shouldn't have said.
Yeah.
So
well, look, when it comes to credit for creating things, it's fleeting, it's weird. I mean, you mentioned something interesting. You mentioned Bill Finger, who really got screwed big time by Bob Kane, right? Yeah. Now, people never leap to Bob Kane. You ever notice how no one ever leaps to Bob Kane's defense? Everyone says, "Yeah, that's scumbag." Rightly so. What he did to Bill Finger, right?
Yeah.
And they made a documentary on it. We all feel bad for Bill Finger, which I do as well, right? But you never hear them. It's weird. Did you know that there was you ever heard of the name Frank Foster? Anybody?
Nope.
There was a guy named Frank Foster who was aspiring to be a cartoonist around the early 1930s, when National Periodical Publications was just in business. There were National, or he was hanging around those offices when they were cutting comic strips together to make comic books, famous funnies, and all that kind of stuff. And he proposed a character who dressed up with a mask and called himself Batman, that ran around fighting criminals. And he left some of his notes at National, and they got left there, and they got turned down, but they was left there on the notes and all that kind of stuff. And then a few years later, you get a character. Bob Kane has a character that he wants to make, that he gets his buddy Bill Finger to write, called Batman. But nobody ever hears about Frank Foster. Well, we don't know that Bob Kane just didn't come up with that with his own. We don't know, and the name, we don't know that he saw Frank Foster's art, but people will tell you that, oh yeah, that was around the offices for years at, for DC until he national until he got a hold of it. A lot of people
knew about it, right? Yeah,
right. And so they're thinking that maybe that's where Bob Kane got it from, and then later he went to his buddy and let Bill Finger do all the work. And Frank Foster was trying to be a comic strip comic artist, break into cartooning. He later did do some other work for cartoonists and stuff, but he just assumed that they didn't want it. They turned it down. Then when he saw the first issue of a Batman comic, he was saying, wait a minute. But there was nothing he could do about it. Back then, especially. And in the early 90s, one of his, after he passed, one of his, I think it was son or whoever it was, went to DC Comics and talked to then president Paul Levitz and showed him some of the artwork pieces and stuff they had from it. And basically, Paul Levitz was a good dude. He said he agreed. He said he concurred. He said, you've convinced me that this was here. I mean, in other words, he proved his point that was there. Then he said, what can I do for you? Well, there you go, Frank Foster. Let's look at that. And that was years and years before Bob Kane. Well,
his original.
There you go. That's some of the original Batman ideas that was on the desk floating around. He created Batman in a sense there, and yet nobody knows who Frank Foster is. He was, what are you going to do? But it's weird. People, Bill Finger didn't rip him off because it was Bob Kane. But look, code name Batman. Look at him.
Yeah.
But
that's amazing.
And then they just ended up not, they just ended up. I hate to say it, but Paul Levitz had a point. Paul Levitz said, "Well, what can I do for you?" Because he couldn't do it. What could he do? I mean, the man had already passed away. The man was, I don't know. But what could you do about that? But how many people know who have ever heard of Frank Foster? People have heard of Bob Kane. I mean, Bill Finger at least.
Yeah.
And Bob Kane, of course. So his family got nothing. Got squat.
Well, of course, today you would have copyright lawyers, and you'd have all kinds of, rights issues, and of course, when you have an invention, in the world of patents, it's first. Some places it's first to invent, and in other places it's to show. You could show your notebooks or your signed notebooks. If you're working on something, you could prove, who came, brought it forward first. But that's always a big contention. Is I guess there's a YouTube video on that. Yep.
Oh, is there? I've never seen
original
videos
Batman,
about it. And then other videos about it.
I can put the link in the.
Yeah, I gotta go watch it later.
So we don't. Let me put the link in so people can.
1932, and it sat around on the desks forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that was something. I don't know if anyone's ever heard about that before, but I hadn't thought about that for years. And this all got me kind of thinking about that kind of stuff because creators getting screwed over is always something that's been interesting to me. And I'm not in a good way. I don't like it, but it's always something that's always bothered me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's a shame. And I don't know. I just Romita. If you look at some of his interviews, swing back to Romita for a second. So I've seen interviews with him, even with Stan sitting there. By the way, in some cases, he's got this big smile on his face, and he's talking about. He has flat out sometimes said, "Well, Jack did. Stan didn't give me any plots or anything. He just, basically, kind of, he knew, but he wasn't allowed to say that much. If you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but what can you do? What can you do? Do. I had I can't find what I was looking for in the article. Where are you? Oh man, there was an interview I was looking for that I was gonna talk about, but there was an interview with Kirby by Gary Groth in the Comics Journal from from the 80s where Jack, in the interview, dude, I mean, he's brutal. Jack says, I did it all. He didn't do a damn thing. And it sounds extreme, too. I mean, it's like, wow.
Oh, yeah,
nothing?
yeah.
But he says it, though. He says it. I did it. There you go, right here.
Found it.
All right. And we'll get out of here in a second, folks. Six, what's up, you lovely Six?
Hi, Six.
Good to see you. Now, again, this is not me. This is Jack Kirby saying this. He said, and you two collaborated in all the monster stories? Kirby. Groth said that. Kirby. Stanley and I never collaborated on anything. I've never seen Stan write anything. I used to write the stories just like I always did. Groth. On all the monster stories, it says Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. What did he do? What did he do to warrant his name being on them? Kirby, nothing, okay? Groth, did he dialogue them? Kirby, no. I dialogued them. If Stanley ever got a thing dialogued, he would get it from someone working in the office. I would write out the whole story on the back of every page. I would write the dialogue on the back of or a description of what was. He would hand them to some guy, and he would write in the dialogue. He's not even saying Stan wrote the dialogue. Wow.
Yeah.
In this way, Stan made more pay than he did as an editor. This is the way Stanley became the writer. Besides collecting the editor's pay, he collected writer's pay. I'm not saying Stan Lee had a bad business head on. I think he took advantage of whoever he was working for, whoever was working for him. But he was essentially serving as a capacity as an editorial liaison, you and the publisher. Anyway, yeah. Again, not my words, folks. You could choose to believe one or the other.
Yep, interesting. Yeah.
But I tend to believe the guy who had his story straight all the time than the guy who changed the story all over the place.
Were there any Stanley scripts out there, or you could see where
you'll sooner see a unicorn before you see a Stanley script anywhere.
But we've seen the Kirby notes and the Kirby dialogue on his artwork.
And he didn't have to write a script because most comic artists don't have to write a script because they're drawing the comic from their mind. Now, comic writers who weren't artists, you name the comic writer who wasn't an artist, you could find them, and I've seen scripts of comic book scripts before.
Yeah.
But
and Jack from all his other creations was a great writer as well too, because when he left Marvel Commandy, I mean it's not like
Fourth World.
That was a fluke. Yeah, the fourth. Not like it was a fluke. Oh wait, yeah, this guy can't write.
Veritable fountain of creativity.
Yeah.
No. So everybody, I tell you what. Again, sad times with the great John Romita Jr. being gone, and we lost just one of the giants of the field. Oliver and Belamonte, hello there. We'll never see his like again. All the greats are gone. All I can say is just thank you, John Romita Sr., for all the just extraordinary work that you did. And the reason why I brought the Kirby stuff up, folks, not just because of the documentary, because John Romita, he took it on the chin and he made a life for himself and his family. And good for him. He did what he had to do for his family. But he got screwed out of a lot of stuff, too. I mean, he did most of that writing. If you loved his Spider-Man run, it's no one else. It would not have happened without him. Not even close. Even if Dick Coates stayed on the book, it wouldn't have been the same. Probably still would have been great and all that stuff. But
yeah.
Defining Spider-Man, because that run defined the character. Dick Coates laid a fantastic foundation, but his Romita's Spidey is a bit different. And some prefer one or the other. That's perfectly fine. But what Romita's, with all the other things he's done, all that great art and stuff, his contribution to Spider-Man, the stories and the characters and the things he did and the art he did for it, is such a gigantic part of Marvel that I don't, it's as close to as gigantic as I would even dare say that it's right up. It's not too far down from Kirby's. Of course, without Kirby, there's no Marvel to speak of. There's no conversation. But you have to add a little bit of Ditko there too, because it did add the Spider-Man component, which is arguably almost as important as all the other pieces. And then you can't talk about Spider-Man's importance without talking about what Romita did. So the three biggest pieces to the puzzle are Kirby and all he did for Marvel. Then it's still a missing piece if you don't have the Spider-Man piece. And so the Spider-Man piece, even though, by the way, and I'm not going to go into this, but Kirby did come up with he is the first one to come up with the idea for Spider-Man. It's just that it was a different one used later, but he did come up with the name, and when he was kind of used, it kind of got put to the side. So Marvel can't happen without the Spider-Man dynamic, and that's that's Ditko Foundation and Romita expansion. So it's like three big pieces to a puzzle. Kirby, Ditko, Romita for the foundation of what Marvel, the renaissance of the Silver Age of comics, what Marvel did for comics and all that gazillions of revenue that it created for all the bloodsuckers who lived off of it and screwed everybody out of their creations. All the corporate bloodsuckers that screwed them over would not have been able to do it without what Kirby did. And then Ditko and Romita. Romita is just as important as Ditko because he took over after Ditko left and ran with it and made it even bigger and defined it for an entire generation. So you can't have one without the other. So that big three-headed monster, as far as all of that. And then if you want to put Lee there, to put him there as the funky flashman, as the ringleader, the showman, the salesman, whatever, if it makes you happy to give him credit. So I guess that's maybe in a sense the Fantastic Four of Marvel right there. So the biggest piece of the pie. And now all four are gone. The last one we just lost last week, John Romita. Without all of those elements together. Andy says, no, Romita did it, in my opinion. Lee writes, no, Stan, and I've seen Romita say sometimes, well, he never really got any scripts from anybody, or it got very little word from Stan or any others. He did pretty much. The opinion of a lot of people will tell you that Romita did the stories. Now, sometimes other people would come in and say this plot here, that plot there, but Romita, would go home and make the stories and bring them back. So, Mandy, I think it was all Romita when it comes to his tenure, just as it was all Ditko when he did his. And all Jack when he did his. That's just an opinion. Always remember, I wasn't there. That's an opinion based on almost 40 years of studying this stuff. And I'm no expert. I'm not a comic book historian by any. I'll never qualify. There are plenty of people who are. Yet some of the ones who are blind to the truth sometimes because of certain connections they have. Anyway, so this is one of the. He is a indispensable chunk of Marvel Comics right there, John Romita. Like if you're going to go if you want to go the Four Horsemen or the Mount Rushmore, without whom you can't have what Marvel did, what was done with Marvel in the 60s, which was the foundation. It's Jack, and it's Steve, and it's John Romita. And then you could put Stan there as the promoter. In my opinion, I wouldn't put him anywhere else other than as the promoter, but if you want four heads on that mountain, fine. That's who it is. And we just lost the last piece of that last week. And as a fan of someone who loves comic books and superheroes and beautiful, great comic book art and great storytelling and loves Spider-Man, I cannot thank John Romita Sr. enough. So here at Clobberin Times, a great. And that's why I kind of went and showed you all that Kirby stuff too, because Stan, he didn't just do it to Jack, and he didn't just do it to Steve. He did it to Romita, but Romita at least hung around there and made it the best of it for his family, and because he was doing what men did back then, they took care of their family. Jack did it too. He just he got away from it, but he went back to Marvel. So hey, Jack left Marvel, but then he went back to Marvel for a while. I mean. Steve did it too. Steve left Marvel and Steve went back to Marvel. So they all did it because they were doing what was right for their families and then we're getting screwed over and it was a shame. They all handled it in different ways.
Yep.
But they all basically got screwed over by Marvel, by Stan, and by Martin Goodman, in my opinion. Remember, it's all opinion. I always like to say that. So I'll put a big J R, and I don't even have to put anything else. He's John Romita. He's not junior to me. I mean, he's not senior to me. Nothing against senior. He said, y'all put that in the chat there. Let's just have a shout out to John Romita Sr. And thank you for all you did, sir. And yeah, so
an amazing creator, yeah.
Yep. Great creator, great artist, and a very, very nice man. I was fortunate enough to meet him, like I said, and he signed the book for me. And again, also a testament to this: all the fans you hear that met him will never say a bad word about him that I know of, anyway. I mean, I don't know. They all say what a great guy he was.
Yep.
And that's when people can say great artist and even greater human being. Well, that's something special. So, thank you, John Romita. And now I'll play us out with these credits. And I want to thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. You really appreciate you all. Actually, show notes again tomorrow night. I'll be over there with Tom and the gang on Midnight's Edge After Dark at 6 p.m. Where are you going to be, buddy?
Well, we got Toxic Tuesday. We've got we're doing some stream brain here. We got what is the movie for Toxic Tuesday? It's not GoldenEye, is it? No. Chuck Norris, and it's I believe we're doing. Is it Missing in Action number 1?
Missing in Action, yeah.
Missing in Action, yep. Missing in Action, yep. Yeah, I think that's the movie for this week. I gotta check.
Okay.
Yeah. I gotta tease Nick.
Our buddy Nick's channel, buddy. So, yeah.
I always put in the wrong movie as a joke because I clipped the wrong movie one week. So yeah. So we better not mess up a Chuck Norris movie tomorrow night because we don't want to. You don't want to make Chuck Norris.
You don't want to piss off Chuck Norris. No.
Yeah.
So there's that, everybody. And of course, Wednesday night I'll be back for my Wild Card Wednesday night show, and I hope you'll join me. And then even though I'll be at Tom's tomorrow night and Tom's Thursday night, there's no Loki's Comic Roundtable. I'm pretty sure, but I'll be here Wednesday night for the Wild Card, and then Clobby's Clubhouse on Thursday night, reviewing Tales of Tomorrow and UFO and Star Trek comic with my wonderful first officer and my great chief engineer, Raquel and Mark. And then Friday night, I'll be hanging with the Comic Shop boys. Nicholas at his channel, 8:30 Central. That's always great fun. And then Saturday night, Star Trek, as always, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So same Trek time, same Clobby channel. And then, of course, there is the Geekery on Sunday nights, as always. On the great Mark D with the C's channel. If you have not, please go subscribe to him. 10 Eastern. That's always great fun. And again, next Monday night, more Legion reviews with the great J-Man, number 9 this time. Been having so much fun. Had a great time, by the way, hanging out with J-Man and Sean this morning. Listen to me, this morning. And so, thank you, everybody, to the great Wrenches, the great Eric K., the great Chris Persia, the great D-Bud Martin, the great Lord Thoth, LLL, the great J-Man, the great Hungry Boy, the great Kal-El, the great Matty Steady, the great Fanty, Outside E, and everyone else. The secret is to bang the rocks together, guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Have a marvelous remainder of your week. I hope we can kick your week off right. Good night, everybody.
Clobberin time! Clobberonimo!
Happy birthday.
I just love clobbering time.